They built a glass paradise way too high, then the bubble pop. The silent sound of foreclosure signs are all over town. I got a bad loan, a promise they believe. Now the dream is over, they're feeling deceived. I watch from the sidelines, patient and cool, playing by a different set of rules. All I wanna do is I love and do what make the fun go. All I wanna do is and no cash out hard and watch the funds grow. This is straight up capitalism, chip chip boom, sweeping up the pieces with the concrete boom. Wanna do wanna do wanna do. Get a call from my contact, a whisper on the phone. Another empty unit, the speculator is gone. He says a shame with a crocodile tears. He sells me their future for a fraction of last year. The paperwork's easy, a cash only deal. That heartbreak and panic is my next big steal. They get a cardboard box, I get the ocean view. It's nothing personal, it's just what I do. And a casual body, take your condo. And a casual body, and watch the dance floor. This is straight up capitalism, chick chick boom, sweeping up the pieces with the concrete boom. When I do wrong, when I do wrong, when I do. Some myself ask for a quick return. Some I rent out, let the lesson burn. They call it a crisis, I call it a sale. In this concrete jungle, the strongest prevail. No funny business, I am the business. They sold you a lead, now I'm the witness. Seek your condo.
Happy Thursday, Miami. This is Condo Capitalism, a 1-hour podcast about what's going on in the distressed condo market in the Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County region. I'm Peter Zalewski. I'm a condo consultant, expert witness, founder of the Miami Condo Investment Club. Every week on Thursday at 4 o'clock, we talk about a particular market where you, as a buyer, might be able to find some discounts. Maybe you're playing the distress game. Maybe you're looking for opportunity as sellers head for the exits due to the rising cost of living in some of these condos, whether it be special assessments, be higher maintenance fees, or just the overall affordability that's hitting South Florida as well as the rest of the United States. What are we talking about this week? We're talking about the central business district of Greater Downtown Miami. It's going to be that area that goes from the Miami River north to the General Douglas MacArthur Causeway. It'll be Biscayne Bay west to Interstate 95. Why are we talking about that market? Well, we're talking about it for a number of reasons. One reason is 11 of the 35 condo projects in that area, there's too many units for sale. Way too many units for sale. We use an indicator where we track the percentage of units for sale compared to the overall number of units in a building. And if it's too high, that means sellers are heading for the exits. You got 11 out of 35 projects. Way too many units for sale. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to get into the fact that there were 17 units in which they're distressed units. Now, 17 doesn't sound like a lot, but yet 17 units in a market that's supposed to be immune, a market that is supposed to be self-sufficient, a market that everybody wants to move into. You always hear all this about the Central Business District of Miami. You hear about Greater Downtown Miami. You hear about how many people are coming to South Florida. Well, they might be coming to South Florida, but they're sure as heck not coming to Central Business District. Why? Too many units for sale. Supply is growing. Supply is growing to the point where you're getting close to 2 years of supply. And what does that mean? That means if sales were to continue at this pace and no additional units came on the market, it'd take you 2 years to burn through all of the product. That's way too much. What should it be? It should be 6 months. So we're going to get into that. We're also talking about the fact that the overall inventory in the central business district of greater downtown Miami, it's getting ready to grow by about 48%. We're going to go from about 9,800 units up to 14,500 units. It's all under construction. It's all getting ready to come forward. So we already have problems before all of this new product comes online. So it's going to get very, very, very interesting. Sort of cut to the chase. If you are a buyer and you're looking for a condo, this is going to be a market where chances are you're going to have some pretty good shots. If in fact we can get some sellers to actually come to their senses and realize what the stuff is really worth. And what's it worth? It's worth a hell of a lot less than they paid for, or a hell of a lot less than what they're asking today. We'll get into some of those details. We'll kind of lay it all out. We'll help you understand what's happening. We're also going to talk about the rental market. What's going on in the rental market? Why are rentals so critical? Because rentals basically is the raw material. It's the fuel in order to keep landlords in their buildings. If in fact they had to move out, maybe they came down here during the pandemic, 2021. They made an offer. They were the lucky bidder out of multiple offers, and they got to overpay for a condo. Now maybe they got called back to Silicon Valley to go work on AI with the technology boom that's underway. Or maybe they got called back up to Wall Street because people like Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan said, listen, we need the synergy. You can no longer work from home. I know. That's what we told you can do, but we changed our mind. All these people who bought condos, if they actually had been forced to come back home, now they need to basically look to rent the units, but rents are way lower than what the carrying cost is, or they need to try to sell them. And that's what's driving up the supply, and we're not getting the transactions. And more importantly, we're seeing cracks in pricing. Year over year pricing, it's coming down. It's coming down in the central business district. So this is a market that I would tell you, if you are an opportunity buyer, if you are a distressed buyer, it's an area to pay attention to. So we're going to get in all the details. We're going to name the names. We're going to tell you which buildings are sort of facing some challenges. We're also going to tell you which buildings might sort of be gliding through. All of that's going to be discussed on today's episode of Condo Capitalism. I should also tell you the reason that we're doing this podcast this week and why we're focusing here, because we're doing a tour on Saturday. The tour is going to be of the Miami Central Business District. Again, the Miami River north, the General Douglas MacArthur Causeway, Biscayne Bay west to Interstate 95. We're going to walk in and around 4 miles. It'll take about 3 hours. We'll go at a moderate pace. I will teach you how to analyze condo projects. I'll give you a list of all the condo projects that exist in the area. You'll get in your steps. You'll have some laughs. And at the end of the day, you'll have a much better understanding of what's going on in the condo market in the central business district of Greater Downtown Miami. Remember, Greater Downtown Miami, you're talking 60,000 units. 60,000 units. Up until about 2002, you know how many units were in that whole area, which would be the Eddie Rickenbacker Causeway north to the Julian Tuttle Causeway, and then the Bay West Interstate 95. There are about 11,500 units. That boom of 02 to 11, you know how many we added? We added an additional 22,000. That took us up to about 33,000 or so. And now where are we? 60,000 units is how many we're looking at. There's way too much product, way too high expectations in terms of pricing. And you know what always happens when that occurs? You get a pullback. Real estate, prices do not grow to the moon, which a lot of people think they do, but unfortunately they don't. And we're getting primed for what I think is going to be a very interesting type of future going forward. Remember, back in January of 2025, we called for a 40% price drop. 40. Let me write that out for you. 40. That's what we think prices have to come back down to in order to kind of make the numbers make sense. And what are we seeing thus far? Well, we're seeing a little bit of a pullback, especially in the Central Business District. We'll get into some of the numbers, but that is the general theme, the vibe. So if you guys want to know the market, Saturday, Central Business District, we're walking it. In fact, this is our last Central Business District tour. We've been doing them all winter, every Saturday. Our last Central Business District tour of the winter buying season, which wraps up at the end of April. As we get into summer buying season, we'll be releasing the schedule. It's not going to be as frequently. Why? It rains. There's a lot of humidity. People are traveling, things like that. So if you are interested in this market, I can't recommend enough to come on out this Saturday. If you want information on the tour, go to miamicondo.club or go directly to the ticket agency, which is miamicondoclub.eventbrite.com. I should also mention to you, too, that we created a club. It's called the Miami Condo Investing Club. What is the club? We're creating a community for those people who are interested in condos. So it doesn't matter if you are a DIYer, you're going to do it yourself. Doesn't matter if you're a buyer working with a broker. Doesn't matter if you are a listing agent and you're trying to figure out why the hell your condo's not selling. Doesn't matter if you're a lender, a regulator, a gadfly. Everybody's invited to join the club. It's a community for condo-minded people. We give you straight talk. We're not a Chamber of Commerce type of organization. All due respect to the Chamber of Commerce, but a little bit too much positivity for me in a market like this, which the data is showing this market you should not be positive about. You should be scared of. The only reason you should be positive effectively if you're on the buy side. If you're on the sell side, we've been telling you all winter. We were telling you last summer. If you are on the sell side, you need to be bold. You need to cut your price. You need to differentiate and get the hell out while you can. Why do you need to get the hell out while you can? Because you over improved your countertops, because your floor is the best, because your view is the best. Unfortunately, when the market starts to unwind, condos really start to show their true value, and the value is as a commodity. Houses are works of art. These are particular things. They have a lot. The shape of the lot, does it puddle, does it not puddle, the trees, how many stories is it? When you get into a condo, it's a commodity. You can figure out the price. It doesn't matter per floor. You're simply adding a premium or taking away. It's all about the same. And that's how that stuff trades. And as you start to move into a market where the buyer has the upper hand, which is where we're in right now, then suddenly you're simply going to trade based on pricing like a commodity, like a salty snack, like oil, like pork bellies, like orange juice, like coffee. By the way, have you seen the coffee prices? I used to buy a brick of coffee. It's like the espresso would be like I don't know, call it like Cuban style, if you will. You used to get one, like if you got the premium, like a Palan, you pay like maybe $4. If you got the other ones, they were typically about $3. The Palan now is going for $9. $9. I thought that we reduced the impact of imports coming from South America, especially related to Brazil. Why is it still $9? Is that corporate greed, or am I simply not making it up, or am I stuck in the old times and, it's different this time and it's all going to be different? Because that's always what you hear. People say, well, you got to adjust to what it is today. You can't be looking in the past. I say to you, that's BS. I say to you, we need to stress test this market. Doesn't matter if it's a grocery store. Doesn't matter if it's a condominium. Doesn't matter if it's a stock market. All of the stuff needs to get stress tested. We've been going up. Now we need to stress test it and see, does it really hold? Or, like I would venture to guess, we're going to see a pullback. And I think that pullback is going to be mighty interesting. And when does the pullback start to occur? Well, it's occurring right now. You're already starting to see people cut bait. We do an index. It's called the South Florida Condo Association Financial Clip Index. We do one for the overall market, and then we also do one for the vintage market. Vintage market is going to be those units that are at least 30 years old. Why are they important? Why are they critical? Because of the Surfside condo collapse back in June of 2021, where you had nearly 100 people died, $1 billion settlement paid out to the families of the victims. The insurance industry lobbied the legislature. The legislature adopted all types of rules and all types of requirements. One of the primary ones, besides transparency on the associations in terms of what the board members have to do, the other one is that these buildings need to be inspected. They need to be inspected effectively every 10 years under something called a structural integrity reserve study. And at year 30, they do a big study. It's called a milestone inspection. And what does an inspection mean? It means that a licensed architect, a licensed engineer is going in there. They're going to check it out. They're going to give you a straight talk of what the shape of the building is, what the condition is, what the shelf life is. They're also then going to turn it over to their finance people who are going to come up with the numbers. What's it going to take to fix? And beginning in 2026, all these associations, they have to come up with a strategy to adopt, to collect, to take out a loan so that money is there to fix the building so we don't see a repeat what we saw almost 5 years ago. And what has that done? That has jacked up the cost of living in a condo to the point where it's much harder to rent today than it is to own one of these condos. Real estate industry doesn't want you to know that. Why? Because they're all making money. They eat what they kill. And because they eat what they kill, they need to maintain this stiff upper lip. Why do you think you're seeing all these developers suddenly take to podcasts? Why are they suddenly all readily available? You know why? They need to try to calm the markets. Anybody in the know, anybody looking at the numbers, they know what it is. And you know what happened this week? Or this week or last week? What happened recently is that the industry just put on some big condo event. You know what they talked about? They talked about Larry Page from Google investing here. They talked about Mark Zuckerberg coming here. Ken Griffin. They've been rolling out Ken Griffin for 4 years or so. They also talked about how all these billionaires and Jeff Bezos, what is all that? That's all a diversion for the fact that the condo market's under significant stress because the numbers don't work. All of that stuff is great. It's all eye candy. It's all is a distraction to sort of get you going one way. And I'm here to sort of tell you, focus on the numbers. Focus on the numbers. Focus on the numbers. And that's what we're doing. And that's what Condo Capitalism is. And that's what all of our weekday podcasts are. We do them every weekday at 4 o'clock. Different subject matter. On Mondays, I do Miami Condo Mondays with my partner, Jenny Huertas. She's a broker owner over at CVR Realty. Make sure you check out her website, cvrrealty.com. On Tuesdays, we reveal the latest South Florida Condo Association Financial Cliff Index. It's a real-time analysis of what's going on in the South Florida condo market, taking a look at active listings and pending sales. All of you are going to focus on closed sales. Problem with closed sales is they occurred weeks or months ago. By the time the data comes out, the market's already moved. What good is it? It'll tell you what happened in the past, but that doesn't do you any good if you're playing today, especially if you're a listing agent. You got a 6-month listing and you're looking at data coming from Q1, which is what we're in right now. That data's not coming out till April. What the hell good does it do you? So what we did is created this index that lets you know what's happening. And you know what the index is saying right now? It's saying since January, the pending sales are going up and the active listings are stabilized or not growing as fast. Why? Mortgage rates, even though we've had 3 federal funds rate cuts, mortgage rates are higher. So that's not one of the reasons. Cost of living in a condo, that hasn't come down. That's only gone up. So why do you think that suddenly we're seeing more pending sales and the active listings are not growing as quickly? Discounting of pricing. By the time the data is released in April from the Q1, you will come to realize everything I'm telling you and been telling you is occurring right now. So this is the advantage of our index. We do it every Tuesday. Wednesday, I do a one-on-one conversation. It's called the Peter Zalewski Show, in which I interview somebody that I think you need to know. This week, yesterday, I did one with a gentleman called Michael Pappas. He's over at Kai's Company. Kai's Company is a 100-year-old company. The company was started right at the peak of the great Florida land boom of the 1920s. So we talked about how does a brokerage basically go through bubbles? How does it go through hurricanes? How does it go through migration waves? How do you kind of get through all of it? It was a fascinating conversation. I encourage everybody to check it out. That was recorded yesterday. Today is Condo Capitalism, where we get into the distress market. And then finally on Friday, I do a show called Buy, Sell, Hold Miami. It's a no-nonsense real estate podcast between myself and a gentleman called Daniel Hernandez over at Compass Real Estate. It's kind of a bull versus bear. Guess where I'm leaning? Daniel, I would say, is he's center bullish, if you will, and I am probably going to be bear. And if you don't know the differences, a bull, the horns go up. A bear, the claw is coming down, and that's the way it is. So I got that claw, and I'm swinging it all around. Why? Because I'm looking at the numbers, and that's what we're going to get into right now. We're going to get into the numbers. Let me tell you, though, before we go and I show you the numbers, what you should know is that at this point, if you want to watch this video on demand after the fact, remember, you're watching it live right now. You want to watch it after the fact on demand, you're going to be behind a paywall, and therefore you have to be a member of the Miami Condo Investing Club. More information on that, miamicondo.club. So